Will Turpin is the bass player and founding member of the band Collective Soul, and he's here today to tell us all about the latest album the band has out called Vibrating. It's got that classic Collective Soul, catchy sing-along choruses and melodic rock that I personally love. Plus, he's got some good stories from the old days, like singer Ed Rollins sleeping in the studio, hanging with Van Halen and Bret Michaels, and plus he tells us all about some other projects that he's working on. All this and more coming right up. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Big fan. Love Collective Soul. Just now discovering your solo stuff too. So a lot of great stuff to talk about.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the new album. It's called Vibrating. That's a title. It's based on sound vibrations, right? Or is it something more?
Yeah. All frequencies, everything breaks down to a frequency, and it's always, vibrating. So that's what it is. What are these frequencies that hit our ears and make us feel a certain way and remember certain things, so it all breaks down to this little scientific thing, but we all know that it's actually turns into something magical that we really can't describe how it makes us feel this way as humans. But,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then you guys, now Ed does or E as he likes to be called now, he does all the songwriting, but what you guys must do something with the arrangements and things. I mean, what do you guys the band add to the songwriting and making the songs?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely comes to us with and depending on the song, sometimes it will be developed out of a jam session, but he comes with a strong, especially later in the years, in the earlier days, it was more out of jam session and literally just, he called them vowel movements. So it was it wasn't even real words. And we would create a little more from scratch like that. That being said, Ed's lyrics, no matter how we're creating music as a band, his lyrics have always been, one of the strongest things about this band. But yeah, man, we all kind of grew up in the studio. Even now today with Jesse Triplett, he's been with us 9 years. This is a guy that grew up in the studio. So it's a band that kind of produces themselves and arranges themselves. We always have. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the studio that's, that are different roles that everybody takes on. But yeah, man, we're all over that record.
I was going to say, because I just had the drummer from Creedence Clearwater on, and we were talking about that, how, they had so many hits with Creedence, and then John Fogerty went solo, and for some reason he only had two hits or a couple hits, even though he was the main songwriter. But there must have been something about the band together that pushed him to make better music. I don't know. It always makes me wonder about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always said chemistry is like the most important thing with a band. So if you've got chemistry, then you can build on that, and that becomes something that's kind of bigger than the sum of the parts. Is that the right way to say that? 1 and 1 equals 3 kind of thing,
For sure.
So the chemistry is right with the musical, artistic thing like that, then it makes it bigger than it really is.
Yeah, no, I love it. It sounds like classic Collective Soul. I mean, that's one thing I love about Collective Soul is you haven't really had a lot of experimental albums. It's always been that kind of Collective Soul sound. And from the first tune on this one, Cut the Cord, that song's really good. I'm surprised that wasn't the first single, although All Our Pieces is also, I guess that's also, they're both really catchy, really good sing-along choruses.
Yeah, I mean, we used to fret over what was a single so much back in the day, and it's not really like that anymore. We want certain songs to be heard. We've got to pick singles, but yeah, man. I mean, Collective Soul. It's one of those sounds that first record people couldn't pigeonhole us. We sound like nobody else. We only sound like Collective Soul. But yeah, we're a very eclectic band. We've got a lot of different sounds, and it's really hard to say exactly what subgenre Collective Soul is, because I think we cover a lot of those subgenres. And then in the end, it's just a rock band in the end.
Yeah.
The Beatles can do Long and Winding Road and do Helter Skelter on then it's all in rock and roll. But yeah, man, it's just part of our MO. We only do what we do well, and we stick to that. And again, that being said, we are a very eclectic band. There's a lot of different sounds you'll hear on every one of our records.
Yeah, there's piano on I don't know if there was as much on this one, but on the other, on what was the one before? Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who that was this Ed do the piano?
Ed, there's piano parts that if it's like a featured like piano part, you can tell it's going on with the vocal. It's more than likely Ed, almost always Ed. If it's just like a little keyboard part that might be in the background of chorus or something, a lot of times that's me. Most of the time that's me. But yeah, man, if you hear a part that's going working with the vocal, Ed can sit behind a piano and write a song just as good as he can on an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar. So.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was trying to look for interesting facts about trivia about Collective Soul. I didn't realize that on the 2000 album you guys had Elton John play. How did you get Elton John on a song? That's crazy. I never knew that.
Well, being from Atlanta, he used to live here a lot. I don't think he's not here as much anymore. I still think he's got a place, but I think the Georgia politics finally got to him. But anyway, yeah, so he befriended us. Elton John befriended us because he was in town and he became a fan of the music because he heard the music while he's living in Atlanta, and he knew we lived in Atlanta, and one thing led to another. And of course, Ed was going to try to find an opportunity to get him on a record. And yeah, man, I thought that song Perfect Day, I'll hear it every now and then, like background type music in Home Depot or something like that, but I thought that song would garnish a little more attention. I thought it was extremely well done. Elton's part just fits like a glove. And I'm really happy with everything we did as a band as well. But yeah, man, that's a cool song.
That's got to be frustrating when you write these, or you record or whatever, these brilliant songs, and you finish the product and you go, okay, this is a masterpiece, and then it doesn't get the reception you want. I mean, what's interesting about your new album too, I noticed when I was looking on Spotify, Back Again is the most popular song, and that's not even one that you put out as a single. Why do you think that one rose to the top of the most popular?
Probably because of the bass line. I don't know. That's one of my favorite. I like that vibey thing that we do. That's another kind of sound that Collective Soul can get into. It's the vibey kind of mid-tempo song. I love that song. So yeah, I mean, that's great when you see what people gravitate towards. It's one of those things that, like I said, especially in the 90s, we would really deliberate over what's going to be the singles, and now we get to. We definitely want to put singles out, but we get to sit there and watch on the streaming platforms and see what people are gravitating towards naturally.
That's interesting too, because it's like a deeper track. It's number 9 of 10, so it's like people must have listened to the full album and then gravitated towards that one for whatever reason.
Yeah, another good perspective. Yeah, I think that's awesome that people are listening to the entire record.
Yeah. So you're the band Collective Soul. It's such a fascinating story to me. I didn't know some of the backstory. Can you clear some of this up though? Because I'm trying to figure out.
Probably not in 5 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Just some of the basic stuff. So it's just, I love these kind of like, when the band is nothing and then they make it. I love those kind of stories. And it sounds like, now, was it Ed was working at, what was it, like the church? Ed was doing landscaping and he was a janitor at your dad's church to pay the bills. And no, well, am I close?
Yeah. My father, I'm at my studio right now. I took ownership of my father's studio about 3 years ago.
Reel to Reel?
Yeah, Reel to Reel Studios. Yeah. He opened the studio in 1976 in Stockbridge, Georgia. So Ed went to Berkeley for 1 year, came back home. I think he was doing some odd jobs for cash every now and then around the church because, preacher's son, he got the easy jobs. But no, he was head engineer. Ed was head engineer at my father's studio. All during the 80s and early 90s, he was busy, man, producing and engineering all kind of cool bands. I think one of the first ones he did, ironically enough, is RuPaul in Atlanta. RuPaul used to do straight up pop records, and Ed engineered that. That was one of his first ones, probably in I think he started working at the studio maybe 82 or 83. We were talking about that the other day. Maybe 83. But me, Shane, Ross, Dean, we were a really tight-knit core, and we were hanging around the studio as well, all at the same high school. We were watching Ed work on his craft. Ed was 6.5 years older, 7.5 years older than me, Shane, and Ross. And we were fans of Ed's music. And the short version is, we were hanging around the studio. We were all buddies. We knew Shane immediately right out of high school was in Ed's band. Ross was soon after that. And then me and Dean were kind of the last two to join the band, but we knew that those five guys, chemistry wise, we knew that would be the strongest chemistry we could have. And when I committed to bass, I'd never played bass. It was more about being in a band of brothers and understanding the direction of Ed's songs. We really understood the direction and where we were going to go with them. And honestly, we just wanted to record as much music as possible. We really wanted to develop and show people what we had. And that's kind of the short version of how Collective Soul came to be. It's right. It's also why that second record is significant as the self-titled record. We went into that recording process as a band, and the first record wasn't recorded as a band.
Are you guys on the original? That was the other thing I wanted to clear up, because I thought he said something like it was different musicians on the first record.
Ed's playing bass a lot. Shane's on you can tell. Ross is on the record. Shane's on the record. You can tell the records that have acoustic drums. Shane was there helping him out with everything. I think the point there is it wasn't recorded as a band. Some of those songs were recorded for more of a songwriter demo where Ed wanted to maybe shop some of his songs. So even a song like Shine, the only real performer on that song other than Ed is Ross playing the solo. There's programmed drums that I don't know if Shane was around to help that, or Ed just totally programmed himself, because he did it either way. They did those things both ways. But, Shine, you'll hear, if you go back and listen to that first record, you'll be able to tell the ones that were maybe intended for a songwriter demo. But the first record, Hints and Allegations, Things Left Unsaid, it became a collection of the best rock and roll stuff that Collective Soul as a band was doing. So we did release a record that wasn't really a band record on an independent label, and it later got stamped by Atlantic Records. And the way Shine started rolling downhill, there was no time to go in and re-record. That's what we always thought. Hey, let's get signed off this collection of songs, let them see us play live, and then we'll record a record. And fate had other ideas for us. So the first record stayed as it is, and we went in and recorded a brand new record and called it Collective Soul.
But they were Ed was pushing Good Night, Good Guy as the single, right? And Shine was the B-side, and then some DJ played it. I don't know about how those stories. I mean, folklore. I mean, we would have maybe thought in our minds that Good Night, Good Guy was our best rock, straight ahead rock single. But we weren't pushing anything. I was 23 years old. Ed was 29, and we had just signed to Atlantic Records. We knew that they had promoted and were part of AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and all these legends. We didn't go in there with any kind of business plan on what we thought was going to be the way things were. But again, Shine started on its own. There was no decision with Shine. It was a snowball at the top of a mountain, and it got kicked off the mountain rolling downhill because JRR in Orlando, Florida, Steve Robertson, a DJ on a commercial radio station, added it in full it wasn't full rotation. He added it in a Sunday night shootout, and we kept beating everybody. Next thing you know, we're in rotation. We're the highest call in, highest recommended or requested song. Before that, we were just on college radio with an independent record, and nobody was watching. Nobody was listening. So as soon as that happened at a huge commercial station in Orlando, we actually had options for which label we wanted to sign to. And again, the forte of our business acumen was that Atlantic Records had Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and Foreigner. So we were like, that's our label. So that's how you're not businessmen when you're young artist, Sure. No, and I just love, but it's such an inspiring thing that Ed, I mean, he was 29, which I remember at the time hearing that he was going to give up. He just wanted to be a songwriter. He wasn't even really.
That's exactly why he was promoting some songs that were for a songwriter demo.
Yeah. But was this part true where he was, before you guys made it, he was working in that studio. He was sleeping in the studio and he wanted to be a producer. And then he didn't, every 3 or 4 days, he'd go to a friend's house to shower. He was like living in the studio, right?
His parents' home would have been, the drone footage of Stockbridge, Georgia is pretty pretty small town. It gives you a small town vibe. The church, the Roland's house, my house, Ross's house, the studio. We're literally not talking half a mile radius,
Mm.
and it's in that little main street of Stockbridge. Ed would have just went wherever he'd had a place to crash, and he would have had a bunch of good options. Again, it gets blown out of proportion like he's a vagabond, but he had he had plenty of warm beds and homes that were
Sure.
welcoming. I think true enough, he did spend the night underneath the mixer because it would keep you warm in the winter. It was the original studio was a basement studio, and it could get kind of chilly down there in the winter. So my father was super supportive of Ed. Definitely, one of my father's favorite relationships and most successful thing that he was ever a part of. But Ed had carte blanche. Any free time in the studio, Ed was able to go there and record and work in the studio for free. And so he would be there a lot in the middle of the night. So at 4 a.m. when you're done and you're cold, you just curl up underneath the mixing board. It wasn't some means because he didn't have a place to sleep.
It was just that he was so driven that he wasn't like, oh, I'll just work a 9 to 5 and go home and hang out and watch TV. Like he was working his ass off is what it sounds like.
That's the storyline. Yeah. He was driven and working his ass off in every free minute he could get at the studio. And like I said, meanwhile, me and my buddies are hanging out in the studio and appreciating everything he's doing. And yeah, the short version is his friends started getting real jobs and getting married, and me, Shane Ross, and Dean came up.
Yeah. So then this record blows up, and then you guys go on tour with Aerosmith. I mean, that must have been surreal. They must have given you some sort of advice or something, because this is kind of one of your big first big tours, right? So they must have helped you out a little bit, taking you under their wing.
Yeah, a little bit. They weren't too going out of their way to put their arms around us. And the only reason I have that reference is because the very next year we did 3 months in every arena with Van Halen, and it was really Aerosmith guys were great to us. Steven told me to stay away from his daughter. That was about the best advice he gave me. But Sammy and Eddie Van Halen and Michael Anthony, man, you talk about somebody who put their arm around you and really we wouldn't be the same individuals or the same band without that tour and without the friendships and the way they treated us and what they taught us.
What did they teach you?
A lot about the music industry. And they also taught us how to just perform, focus on your performance, have fun. And then they gave us a sense of acceptance and hey, you guys are the next generation. Y'all are a freaking good rock band. Y'all are going to be next. Y'all are going to do what we're doing. And they gave us that feeling. They gave us some confidence, and literally helped us during a rough time in our history with our lawsuit and our first manager that we went through. Without them, we got a lot of help from them with how to deal with that and what steps to take.
Yeah, I know you can't talk about that. Tell me about this story, though. I heard you talking just briefly about this. I want to hear more about this. I know you're not a fan of hair metal. I love hair metal. So Bret Michaels comes to hang out with you guys at one of the Van Halen shows, and he's talking about like, what do I do? Because this was 1995, and nobody gave a shit about Poison. Yeah. Tell me about that story. That just sounded so fascinating to hear Bret Michaels saying, what do I do?
And you dug that story up. That's true. He stopped in one day, literally. For some of those hair bands, it went from selling out arenas to within a year or 2 years, they really couldn't hardly sell a ticket. Where Van Halen, if you're from the 70s or 80s and you're real rock and you weren't just blowing up your hair and singing about getting laid and partying, and which was a very small amount of lyrical content that they used in the hair band days, but it's obviously a good topic to write rock songs about. But you just wanted to hang out, man. He just wanted to hang out and see what was going on, I guess. I don't know, man. He was, for us being young, we were just like, man, we know what's going on with Collective Soul. We know what's next for us. I'll listen to Bret, but I didn't have time to even think about what was next for Poison. But things come around. Now they're selling out of stadiums again with the band. So it's it turned out fine for him, but sure enough, man, he did show up one day and hang out with us. And then he hung out with us on the day off. We played golf and stuff. And yeah, he didn't know what to do.
That's
And
cool.
actually,
He seems like a pretty cool guy though. He's like, seems like
he
a
is
really
a
nice
cool guy. He's a
Yeah.
real cool guy. And he was dating Pamela Anderson then too. So they came to the LA show and got to meet her.
Wow. That's pretty exciting. All this stuff must have been really crazy just to happen. It kind of was like almost overnight for you in a way, right?
Super overnight. I mean, within a year, we're unsigned and opening up for Aerosmith and playing Woodstock 94.
Oh, great. Yeah, that was, I just saw, did you see that documentary? Cause you played 94 and 99. The documentary was 99, I believe, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was tangible. The difference between 94 and 99, the moment we got on site, it is totally tangible. You heard people like squawking about $4 waters and even my vibe, my own personal vibe. I was like, ooh, we're on top of a cement landing strip. It's a tarmac. This is nothing like 94. 94 was so grassy hills, huge crowds. It was fun. 94 was great. Had a perfect vibe. And then 99, like I said, the moment we were on the ground at Woodstock 99, something was tangible, something was different, and it was the injection of corporate greed.
So that's an accurate portrayal, the miniseries?
Pretty accurate portrayals from what I saw. Yeah. I mean, they might have had some video footage that you didn't see a lot of. They might have had some extreme video footage, but the overall take, it was tangible to me the day I stepped on the site in 1999.
Crazy. Well, I know you got to get going here. I did want to give your solo stuff a shout out. So you have this band. It's called, I love that you call it Will and the Way.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes
And
sense, right?
What's that?
I had to go with it as soon as I came up with it. I had to stick with that.
Yeah. So, and this is your solo. So you could write you write all these songs. You're the front man. It's totally different than just playing the bass in Collective Soul, right? I mean, this is your project, your baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my first instrument was piano. And I was a percussionist for a long time. So yeah, I sit behind piano. A lot of times the Rhodes or the Wurlitzer. And I come up with a little more funky, maybe a little pop funk that it's a different side of me, and I get to explore that outside of Collective Soul. So it's we've always thought Ed and Dean working on some music outside of Collective Soul is a good thing for us. We always thought that'd be good for the whole. We never looked at it like doing something outside of the band would be bad for us. And when all of us were doing our side projects, everybody's like, oh no, they're breaking up. And we really had a totally different mindset. We weren't breaking up. We were spreading out a little bit and recharging our batteries for when we got back together, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, my solo stuff's out there, and I'm going to do some more. I'm here at Real to Real Studios a lot right now. I'm here right now. Spent the night here last night. By my disheveled headband look, you might be able to tell that I spent the night in the studio. I didn't sleep underneath the mixing board like Ed would have.
But you're producing some bands too. You're producing Hey Dreamer, and then was it your son and nephew's band too?
Yeah, Tristan, my son Tristan's here working on his stuff. A band called the Corduroy Blue out of Woodstock, Georgia, barely north of Atlanta. Really talented young guys. Mary Martin out of Noonan, Georgia, and a really cool, fun Mobile / New Orleans kind of swamp rock vibe. Red and the Revelers. I'm having real fun producing them too. So all three of those acts, the Summit also out of Cincinnati, Ohio, a good rock band out of Cincinnati. All four of those acts will have a Will Turpin produced single out in the next 6 weeks. So
okay, very cool. We'll look for that. And then, are you guys going to add some shows for Collective Soul? Because I think all I see right now is like a Tacos and Tequila Fest and a Hootie Fest in Cancun.
Yeah, there's some big festivals that we've already committed to, and I think there'll be a few other weekends, maybe one weekend in November that's not announced yet. It'll be like a casino kind of thing, maybe. Stay tuned, man. Stay tuned. You know, Hootie Fest is going to be fun. Check that out if you want to go. It's a bunch of old friends between Hootie, Gin Blossoms, us. We're going to have fun. So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I saw you guys live a few years ago, and it was great. I definitely want to see it again. I love that you still do the song Better Now, too. That's one of my favorites, and that's still on the set list, right? Yes.
It is. We turned it into like a 7-minute we turned into a 7-minute journey. So it's kind of one of the things that we've been doing every show for about a decade now. So
Awesome. Well, I look forward to more shows. And then I always end each episode promoting a charity. I know you've mentioned Music Cares, or is there another charity you want to promote here?
Cares is great. They're doing a lot of stuff in Atlanta right now. Yeah, I mean, the veterans group I like working with, Creative Vets. They're based out of Nashville, but helps veterans that are artistic, but whether they're writers or even players, music, they can play guitar. And we get together, we try to create music with these guys in a therapeutic kind of setting. But the songs that come out are actually absolutely inspiring and super good. So I'm going to keep working with them, and hopefully we can do some studio stuff here with some of the Creative Vet songs that we create, and get those out of here. But yeah, that's a fun charity that I enjoy working with too.
Okay. I'll put that link in the show notes along with the Collective Soul website. Do you have your own website too? I think
there's Reel to Reel Studios. It's
okay.
A website, and I do have a website, but for Will Turpin, I'd rather just push the Facebook and the Instagram. You know?
Okay, yeah, go check you out on social media. Follow you for the most up-to-date stuff. Perfect.
And yeah, the same thing with Reel to Reel Studios. We're on Facebook, and we do a little bit of Instagram, but it's mainly Facebook.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much, Will.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Until next time.
My thanks again to Will Turpin from Collective Soul. Big fan of the band, and they are great live. I recommend seeing them if you haven't already. And check out their new album or check out their old stuff. All their albums are great, in my opinion. Very underrated band. So many good songs. And you heard Will. Follow him on social media for the latest updates with him and the band. And you can also follow me and the show on social media to keep up. We post links to new episodes, short clips, news stories, and more. So, of course, your likes, comments, and shares are appreciated, as always. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already done that. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and shoot for the moon.